Hey, how are you? I've been thinking this is a conversation that you and me really need to have because if you're on this channel, you're here for a reason, right? Because we're in the camera niche. We're in the filmmaking niche. We're in all how to make better vids niche. And right now, there's a lot of people seem to think that this niche is done. It's finished. It's over. It's plateaued. Or has it? Let's dive in and find out what's gone wrong and maybe you and I can figure this out together. There's an absolute metric ton of creators making content around cameras and filmmaking, some for beginners, some for high-end, some cinema stuff. And it's until you actually start diving into different kind of genres of this niche that you can discover a ton of creators. The cinema niche is very specific, it's very high-end, and it's very cool to kind of see all these different types of things. And outside of that, it's like everybody for themselves on beginner tutorials, on camera settings, on product reviews, the whole 9 yards. Some of these folks are my friends. You might say, yeah, there's a lot of people doing the same thing, and that's also known as oversaturation. And that's essentially what this niche is. It's like the gaming niche. It's like any niche that's out there. They've all become oversaturated, and you try and stand out by arguably being you because your perspective is unique to you, not anybody else. So nobody can make this video the way I can make it. Some of you will probably make it better, but that's you. Some of you will make it worse. That's you, right? So that much makes the whole thing unique, but there's a lot of people doing the same thing. The gear side of this niche is highly oversaturated. Companies are sending products to everybody and anybody. You don't need hundreds of thousands of subscribers anymore to get a product. You just get it. And all that is good. And for anyone that's out there starting out in any kind of niche, they want to work with brands. They want to get their free product. This was me a long time ago. And here's the reality of it. Working with brands is cool. But let me tell you, it can be a right pain in the butt because sometimes you get products and the videos just don't work. For whatever reason, it could be you, it could be an algorithm, or the audience. Don't ever say the algorithm is an algorithm, it's just an audience. Which is true, but sometimes these vids just don't work. That makes you look bad to the brand and makes you look bad to the audience, and it's kind of a little bit depressing at times. Right now, in this space, to me, there is something that I would call the stagnation of innovation. I worked a long time on that. There's a couple of things, right? So camera settings, most cameras are the same. If you have a Sony camera, like a lot of the creator space runs off of Sony, then the settings really don't change from camera to camera. The exposure, the shutter speed, the color, everything, it's all kind of in the same spot. Now, if you've just bought something like a Sony ZV-E1, you might relate to someone directly with that camera who's teaching you how to use all the settings. But if you have like a Sony ZV-1 or Sony ZV-2 or whatever they're called, you can figure it out. So there's only so many ways you can beat the same horse before you're actually beating a dead horse, right? Not that we want any dead horses, but anyway, you get my point. So the settings thing, which is something that I enjoy teaching, is great, but it's just the same shit over and over again. Exposure is exposure, shutter speed is shutter speed, composition is composition. And unless you're reinventing the wheel each single time, it can get very stagnant. Now, that's not the only thing that's getting stagnant in this niche. Camera companies, seriously, you are the victims of your own success to a point because the real stagnation of innovation is in cameras. Sony, Canon, Nikon, Insta360, GoPro, DJI, and I'll come back to DJI momentarily, right? They all do the same thing. They all shoot the same stuff. They all have 4K, some have 6K, some have 8K. Some will oversample on the sensor, some are full frame, some are APS-C, some are micro four thirds. It's still just a camera. And all of these camera companies really haven't brought anything hugely new to the space in the last number of years. GoPro push resolution, push stability. DJI, on the other hand, brought stuff like the DJI Osmo Pocket, which was a gimbal and a camera, and then the Osmo Pocket 3 is one of the best cameras in the last couple of years. Yeah, it looks like a kid's toy, but the results speak for themselves. But outside of those small incremental increases, that's all that happens in the camera space. Oh, it's 4K. Oh, next year's camera, it's 4K. And every company is shouting about AI autofocus and AI this and AI color and AI everything. Now, more than AI in a while because that's another issue. But There's a huge shift in audience behavior. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but I know my friends, even me, my wife, we're all a little bit stupider. Why? Because we're thumb scrolling away, doom scrolling non-stop, right? Our attention spans are shorter. If in the last month, say, if you could add up the amount of short form content that you've watched, like 30-second videos, 15-second videos, 60-second videos, whether that's on Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Snapchat, wherever you consume that content, and it's fucking everywhere, compared to, we'll say, long form content, I guarantee. Okay, here's the thing, right? Let's do a deal, me and you right now. Just go off and look at the last couple of days. If you have watched more short form content than long form content, this would be like long form content for the best part, then you owe me a subscription. All right? Deal. And that's also driving this whole problem where people don't necessarily want to learn anymore. They're just like, they just want a quick fix. They just want the super cinematic setting. So they can absolutely not make anything cinematic, but they have the setting. They want the super cinematic LUT. So they have the cinematic color. That's all they want. So people are getting lazier and lazier and lazier. There is a very good friend of mine. I don't want to give his name, but he works in the comic industry, amongst other things. And he's kind of saying to me, there's no real up and coming artists in the comic space. Predominantly because a lot of kids these days are kind of looking at AI going, well, what's the point of me drawing? Just the Gen AI will kind of do it. So they're like, what's the point? So that's another problem. But that's not also the other problem with AI. That's still to come. When you take all the camera gear out of it, right? When you take all the camera gear and all the settings videos, and some of those are very good, and there's a few creators do it well, but not consistently well, and they all try to stand out. It's incredibly frustrating, the one thing that everybody kind of just pushes to one side. There is only so many fucking overview videos I can watch about a lens or a gimbal or whatever before it just gets boring. And while most of these videos will follow a simple beginning, middle and end structure, like the unboxing, like, oh, look at the buttons and it's great, here's my discount code, buy through the link in the description, most people just forget about storytelling. Right? And as humans, we are just natural consumers of stories for billions of years, millions or whatever it is. And that's the one thing that kind of stands out in the market. Look, I'm a huge fan of Peter McKinnon, not so much over the last couple of years for just one reason or another. But he started off doing tutorial stuff, really good tutorials. That's where he was one of the guys, along with Justin Odishius, where I learned stuff about Premiere Pro way back when, right? Now, he's evolved into a storyteller. You would kind of replace watching a TV show with maybe one or two of McKinnon's recent works. They're that good. The Kiefer Sutherland video is phenomenal. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite videos of the year. Just because it's not really focusing on settings, it's focusing on him. And that's what a lot of people seem to think, that you're not that important. You're not the center of the story. But if you're on my YouTube channel or I'm on your YouTube channel, then you're the center of the story. And I feel that's one way that folks are going to start standing out again, is the focus on story. But that's always been the thing. I'm always hammering on about story. If you watch my videos for a while, you're like, I'm sick to shit of this guy talking about story. I'm kind of sick of talking about it as well, to be honest. But a lot of people just forget about it. They absolutely forget about basic structure. They actually forget about the audience and what people are accustomed to watching and liking. Ultimately, this whole thing has reached a plateau, and that's not just my view. I think there's a lot of creators in this space feel that the whole camera thing is definitely come full circle. It's come to the end in some weird way. It's just here now. AI is arguably, as I said earlier on, one of the multiple reasons why it can have plateaued a little bit now. So AI is definitely a double-edged sword. I have used a ton of generative AI in my videos just for B-roll, just to kind of help tell the story. Have they worked? Not really. They haven't failed at the same time. All I do know is for one of my more recent videos, it cost like 40 quid in Runway ML credits. And I didn't make the 40 quid back at all, but that's what it is. So AI is definitely double-edged sword. On the generative stuff, I'm still not sold on the edX side of the generative stuff. I think it's very good for visual line ideas. And I do enjoy the technology side of it. The one thing that I do all the time, and this is the other side of the sword, is I use ChatGPT for ideation. Generally, I will talk to ChatGPT, the advanced voice chat, in the car. Drive to the office, drive home. Right, I want to make a video about X. This is the title I'm thinking. Have you any suggestions on how to make this title better? Here's the 5 bullet points I want to talk about in this video. Do they make sense? ChatGPT, my Skynet overlord. And it just comes back and forth. And it's like just having another person. And it kind of changes the game a little bit because you're not like typing and typing and typing and typing back and forth. You're actually talking to it. So it's almost like another human in a way. It's just a really good sounding board. So I use that all the time for ideation, just putting stuff together. So while one side of it is evil and the Skynet overlords, the other side can be incredibly useful for people's workflows. And the thing is, most people don't have it in any kind of workflow whatsoever. And I think you're probably missing a beat if you're just not using it to kick the tires a little bit about how you can make your videos a little bit better. I've absolutely, at times this year, struggled hugely on YouTube personally, just for health reasons. My wife just bust all of her legs, so there was no time for a lot of stuff. And every time you're like, what camera setting video can I make today? And that can be a struggle. But at the same time, it can be a crutch as well. So you lean on that, okay, this is going to get some views. It's not really going to grow the channel hugely, right? And then you get an email from a brand. They're like, oh, we got this new lens or we got this new gadget. It's going to be amazing. You're like, oh, great, I can make something with that. And then you fall into the same kind of format structure all the time. It's not just you, it's me. Here's the beginning, here's the settings, here's the thing, here's to get the most out of it. And there's no real, even though there's a narrative structure, there's no real story in it. And then it's rinse and repeat, and it gets draining and it gets tiring, and there's no ChatGPT ideation can really fix any of that, right? Because ultimately it's a settings video or it's a gear overview video. If that's the thing with a lot of big creators, they don't do reviews when there's a product launched. So DJI launched something, all the same kind of crew are going to have it. They're not going to review it. They are going to give an overview of the entire thing. And it shows off the features. They never really say anything bad because it's an overview. And then they might do a review, or some people like me will be stupid enough to buy it and then do the proper, honest review, and people go, oh, they're a shill. The only way out of this really is to start telling stories a little bit more, or just doing something that I'd be brutally honest with you. For years I did family vlogs. They're all unlisted now or deleted off of YouTube, and they were kind of shit really. But the thing is, I was out and about. I hate being in here all the time because as much as I try to make the place interesting, it's not that interesting, right? And it's when you get out and about, you can actually tell stories a little bit more because it's visually more interesting. And if you've made it to this far in the video, it's nearly done, by the way. If you've made it to this far in the video, thumbs up. And if you've kind of, don't renege on the deal that we spoke about earlier on, but we'll take a like while you're here. And it's all of those things that come together, but just tell more stories. And I know there's a lot of people completely like, I'm not a storyteller. The thing is, you are, and there's a video here which will give you all the basics of how to tell phenomenal stories and videos. And it's not just like they'll work on a vlog. They'll work on the camera stuff. They'll work everywhere. That video. See you on the next one.